And speaking of other interesting experiences, we were invited to be on a panel discussing monogamy, polyamory, and mental health. Even though mental health didn't really come up.
No, it didn't. There was one question.
Yeah, but it still was like...
The panelists did a good job of making it mental health driven.
Right.
The question wasn't necessarily mental health perspective, but we took it as a moment to be able to be like, okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah. I wish we would have,
really been able to dive in.
Yeah.
But we were in a room full of black folks, and room full of black folks are not going to willingly talk about mental health.
Yeah.
And the way they did what I liked about the event is when you checked in, you had to write down a question.
Yeah.
So everyone's questions were obviously talking about relationships. We as a culture can talk about that more comfortably than mental health.
Right. That's very fair. So anyway, but there were a lot of questions. There weren't really even questions about monogamy specifically, but like you could tell a lot of questions were like, how do I do better with men? How do I do better with women? And then the questions about polyamory though were the most fascinating. I feel like I learned
a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
And in the past, we've been judgmental. In the past, we've been like, I mean, if you want to be
100%.
polyamorous, that's cool, but like, it's whack, that's crazy, and it's weird. That was kind of the
we have an article, we have a blog on our
you.
website. I think that we wrote in 2012
we didn't write
or
it about
13.
polyamory. Somebody
commented it on a post, didn't it? And then we went back and forth in the comment section.
Yeah. And but the thing with this is I still stand by, well, I don't know what was said in the comments, but this person was mad that we were writing like
about monogamy.
Yeah, and it was like, well, we're in a monogamous relationship.
This is our experience. And then I told him, I was like, if that's you, cool.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not gonna sit here and be convinced.
But I want to say in the past I was saying, okay, yeah, cool, but I wasn't uncool with it, but I didn't understand it, and I really did. I thought it was weird, and so. Hearing it now, I understand, like, it's just another way of experiencing relationships. I still feel like it's not for me. It's not for me, and it sounds exhausting. Frankly, it sounds very tiring.
Very exhausting. When they were explaining it, there were 3 panelists who were polyamorous, and they're explaining their process and what it's like. I was like, this sounds harder than being just in a monogamous relationship. Yeah. I was like, I'm emotionally spent just listening to you.
Yeah.
Now I can only imagine having to live through it. So it was a very eye-opening and interesting conversation. And the thing that worked or helped us the best is we walked in there with no judgment.
Yeah.
And being able to receive those ideas and walk through. I mean, the guy on the panelist had a shirt that said non-monogamous. And I was like, oh, this is dope. Like, I was like, yo, that's a dope shirt. Yeah. And I was excited to hear his perspective.
Agreed.
And because you go in with no preconceived notions on individuals, we were able to have a truly open and honest dialogue that I feel everybody from the panelists to those who were in attendance were able to receive a great message. And now I know for sure, years ago, had I saw his shirt, I would have said, oh, this brother right here. And we wouldn't have been able to engage on a level because I would have had my wall up so tough.
Yeah.
But because my wall was completely down and I have done the work to get to the space of being open-minded and understanding that everyone's experiences are different. They just are, and it's not a right thing. It's not a wrong thing. Our experiences are different, and being able to meet people in an open place where we can come sit and just have dialogue. Like, imagine if the people who ran our country were able to do that same thing. It's like everyone's experiences are different, but we can come together and talk about our experiences and then come up with a collective solution. And sometimes there's no solutions. But we have a collective understanding. I think we'd be at a much better place as a society. But it's like for this weekend, we were in a space where we can just collectively understand each other without judgment. And we walked away all more fulfilled and more knowledgeable.
Right. It's interesting because one of the points one of the gentlemen made who's in a polyamorous relationship was that he can be a lot. He's like, I know that I am a lot. And he had been in monogamous relationships in the past. And he said sometimes, like, he has... a girlfriend who works a 9 to 5, or a partner. I think he calls them partner.
Yeah, he calls them partners.
So a partner who works a 9 to 5, and then he has a partner with a less structured schedule. So he knows, but he needs to talk a lot. So like after a lecture or something, he really wants to dive in, and have a very intellectual conversation about whatever it is he just experienced. And if the 9 to 5 partner isn't available, instead of bothering her, he calls his other partner who has a flexible schedule. And I just thought, Wow. Okay, I get that. And I used to joke to Justin all the time. I used to say, I'm just gonna hang out with my other boyfriend. You remember
All
that?
the time you were
I
saying
used
that.
to say that. So he just really put that into practice. Now, I don't have the desire to really do that. I do think, like, yeah, that part of it sounds cool. Like, oh, okay, you just have someone else to call. But for me, like, that's just a friend. And then also having to be emotionally available for multiple partners.
That was the most exhausting thing, in my opinion.
I just, no thank you.
Yeah, that's what you're tired hearing about it.
Yeah, one person is a lot. Like, one person is a lot. Like, you have to show up for people that you're in a relationship with all the time.
Way differently than you have to do with your friends.
Yeah, like you're always on. Like, even if you're having an off day or not feeling, you can communicate about it. You can be like, yeah, today's just not the day. I'm not feeling great. But even then, you have to be considerate enough to say, I don't have it today. And even that sometimes feels like work. So, you know, to have to do that multiple times, or I don't know, can you just tell the other partner, like, could you spread the word?
Like, can you let them know that I'm just,
Yeah.
today's not the day? But
Yeah.
I'm interested in how the communication goes. Like, do other partners talk to others?
Well, it's from the way they were speaking, and I actually wanted to ask this question because it sounded like within
They're
the relationship,
independent of each other?
yeah, like you can have a partner together, like the three, like let's say there's 4 people in this polyamorous relationship. 3 of you can be in a relationship, but then like it can be one person who just is in a relationship with somebody else too.
It did sound like that. There's a few different structures.
And they were saying that within polyamory, there's no one way to do it. Like,
Yes.
every relationship is different.
Yeah, it was a very interesting, eye-opening conversation that I loved being a part of. We talk about relationships. Obviously, our perspective is the monogamous point of view. That's our experience. That's what we live, and that's what we're going to speak on and share. But to be able to learn more about other ways of how
Approaching
other people
relationships, how people
approach
do it.
relationships, how they
Yeah.
date, how they interact, it all helps.